Okay, let's call to order. Sorry about the lateness. It is 6:40, it looks like to me. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bonner.
Here.
Councilmember Aarons.
Here.
Councilmember Haggerty. Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Here.
Mayor Warren.
Here. Okay, next, public comments. Ruby, would you read the statement, please?
Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the city, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is asked to complete a speaker request form available on the back counter. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. The City Council has adopted a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you are commenting on the agenda item, your comments will be heard at the time that particular item is scheduled on the agenda. Please note that if you are addressing the City Council on items not on the agenda, the Brown Act does not allow discussion of such items. Therefore, the City Council may only do the following: refer the matter to staff, ask for additional information, or request a report back, or give a very limited factual response.
Okay, I stepped aside for a moment because we had a closed session, so I'm sorry. That was a good reading. That'll be for after our...
Okay.
Yes, that's for item 6. I'm so sorry. But we skipped around a bit. Are you all awake now? Everybody on their toes? Not reading from the books yet? Okay. So we did call our session to order. Let's have the invocation, please.
Join with me, if you will. God our Father, we're blessed and so appropriately begin this time asking for your blessing. Again, mindful how blessed we are as a community for the amenities, for its population, and for its history, and also with expectation for the future. Pray for your continued blessing and guidance on our council members. I'm grateful for these men and women who dedicate their time and their energy as well as their wisdom. And we pray that tonight, through all the deliberations, it will be pleasing to you and be a great blessing to each and every one of us who call this home. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Remain standing, we'll have the flag salute. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at our roll call. So we're skipping around. Now we're on number 4. Approval of the council agenda. Are there any changes needed? Okay, can I have a motion?
I move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, 5 in favor, none against. Number 5, special presentations and proclamations. Can I have the Chamber of Commerce would like to come up? Oh, it's the new guy. I see you've got your wingman here though, just in
Yeah.
case. Okay.
Madam Mayor, City Council, Matt Svensson, the new president of the Canyon Lake Chamber. To start off, we'd like to thank everyone who recently attended our Sail into Success board installation and community awards gala. More importantly, we'd also like to thank our platinum sponsors, which were CR&R and Platinum Plumbing, and our gold sponsors, which were the Sports Stop and the Canyon Cowboy. We had many businesses and local individuals who donated items for gift baskets and raffles, and we'd like to thank them as well. It really helped in our fundraising efforts. The Friday flyer came out, took pictures for us, and they also helped us promote our event, so we'd like to thank them for attending and donating their time. As far as the winners, we had many people who nominated leading businesses, citizens, and groups who make a difference in our community, and we'd like to congratulate those honorees. Business of the Year was Platinum Plumbing. Citizen of the Year was Ron Martell. Organization of the Year was the Canyon Lake Women's Club. Volunteer of the Year was Steve Levering, and Youth of the Year was Jake Hosking and Cooper Smith. So we'd like to congratulate all of them. Moving on to forward events, April 24th, the Chamber will be hosting a Meet the Candidates for the individuals that are running for the POA Board of Directors. It will be at the Canyon Lake Country Club. It's going to start at 6 p.m. We encourage residents to attend and meet all the 2018 candidates. There are 2 of the 5 seats that are available, so please come out for that. And then jumping forward another month, May 19th is the Chambers Golf Tournament, so our golf outing. We'll have signups out here shortly, and we're going to do our 2nd annual ball drop. So with that, they're going to do the tickets that match the numbers to the ball, so you don't get the actual ball. But it's $10 per ball. They're being sold at the Pack Wrap and Post, at the Pro Shop at the Country Club, and the Chamber office, right? And at the Chamber office. So we encourage everyone to get out, purchase a ball, and come out and join us for the fun in that. So with that, I guess that kind of wraps it up with what we have right now. So, all right, thank you very much.
Do you, on your calendar, you have March 13th as the next roundtable?
I do, Randy.
Okay,
You
thank
told me
you.
that at the Gallup. So see you Tuesday morning.
Does Jim have to come?
So, no, I told him no way. I'll bring him along. Thank you.
Student of the month, Taylor, can you come up, please? It's my favorite part. We only got to meet briefly, because I was running from one place to the next, but I want to say again,
Thank you,
That's such a feat, and good for the family also, we know that. And Ruby's going to read the certificate to you.
Whereas the students of the month are nominated by their teachers, nomination is usually but not necessarily based on grades, character, leadership, and activities. And whereas Taylor has excelled in all these areas by being on honor roll every year, being named Female Athlete of the Year, being president of the volleyball club, being president of the National Honors Society, being an honor guard member, being named salutatorian of her graduating class. And whereas Taylor's hobbies are running, going to the gym, going to the beach, reading, and spending time with her friends and family. And whereas Taylor has hopes to attend college at UC San Diego, and whereas Taylor hopes to major in pre-medicine. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake do hereby extend our congratulations to Taylor Ogden on her accomplishments and wish her the very best in her future endeavors.
I want to say though, and I've said it before, the Student of the Month program, they don't focus just on grades. They focus on community spirit, on school spirit, participation in other activities inside and outside her school year. But I want to say that if you're looking for somebody who does it all and does it all well, this is Taylor. She's an amazing young woman, and it's awesome to see this kind of person, and she's our very own here in Canyon Lake. So other than the Doctors Without Borders, that may take her a little far away, but we want to keep her here. So, Mom, shackles. Keep her close to home. And if you would say a few things about how you got there and the things that you like, and we would love to hear from Ed. This is for you.
Well, I think I got here on.
I'm gonna make you talk. I am. You have to talk in the
I think mostly because of a lot of it has to do with the opportunities my family's given me, both my parents. They've always pushed me to open and broaden my horizons and try everything, even if I think I'm not going to do well at it, or if I feel scared. They always tell me, well, try new things, do new opportunities, and always work hard at what you do. And I think that kind of philosophy just carried me through, and I always try to put 100% into everything. And I think that helped a lot. It wasn't necessarily skill, but more hard work and work ethic and things like that.
Okay, we already had the reading of the public. If you want the practice, you can do it again. If not, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have three. We have Nancy Horton.
Okay, Nancy?
I'm here for EVMWD, but I did want to say one thing concerning our captain, Craig Fellows, as a citizen of Canyon Lake. He's our captain, but he's also captain of the city of Terrace. When there was the incident with the family and 12 children that were that were kept in horrific circumstances and had to be removed from their situation, Greg, our captain, gave a press conference, and I was very, very pleased with his professionalism, his compassion. He just struck absolutely the right tone in terms of how he dealt with the problem that could have easily been sensationalized, or it could have been underrepresented, and I think he did a fabulous job. So he's not here tonight, but I hope I get to say that in person to him. But I'm here to talk about one of the lake level. The lake right now is at 1378.60 as of today. We did not get a very big bump as of last week's rain. It was only about 2/10. It doesn't seem to have made a big difference in our lake, but perhaps this weekend we'll be getting more. The water district is changing from a flat rate for sewer charges to a variable rate, and we have sent every single customer numerous items of information. This is in an effort to be fair. If there's a house that has one person living in it and the house next door has 10 people living in it, they shouldn't be paying the exact same rate for the use of sewer rates. So we're planning to actually charge people on the basis of how many people are actually in their house. We met with our consultant repeatedly. The board tried so hard to get it right. We didn't like what the consultant gave us in terms of numbers and what people would be charged, so we went over and over and did it many different times. But now, as of July 1st, the rates will go into effect. If you call and tell our business office how many people live in your home, you will pay a reduced flat rate and $6.93 for each person in your household. It cannot be measured because that would require putting in a meter, and that is terribly, terribly expensive, so we're not going to do that. But again, on the water side, we currently allow people between 1 and 4 persons in a household for 4 people. That means 55 gallons a day. That's set by the state for every person in your household. But if you tell the water district you have 1 person in your household, you won't be getting an allowance for 4 anymore. Instead of 220 gallons a day, you'll be getting 55. So bear that in mind. Also, the only way to find out how it's going to affect your bill, because everybody's bill is different based on their usage, you can call the business district and ask for an explanation, or go to a board meeting for an explanation. And we hope that, we know there's going to be a lot of confusion, but we hope that people feel that ultimately we have reached our goal, which was to be eminently fair to everybody. Thank you.
Nancy, question.
Yes.
Are they going to send out something to be signed with our water bill that just you tick the number or write down, I have 1 or 3 or 5?
Don't think so. I think the way to do it is you can call the office or go on the website. And there's a way to do it on the website, just indicate how many people are in your household. So as far as I know, they're not sending out a mailer on it, but it's possible as we get closer to July 1st and we haven't gotten enough people to give us a
Would make
response.
more sense
Yeah.
to have your bill and just check how many people.
I'll give that as a
I mean, that's a
suggestion.
real nuisance for the water company to have to get calls from a gazillion people.
But everybody's bill is different, so it is a separate thing. But also, many people, I think 47% are now on our online bill pay. So they would do it online.
They could still, they could have the same verbiage on their bill online.
Nancy,
Yeah.
I did call the EVMWD. They were referring everybody to go online.
Yeah,
Not taking anything on the phone.
Okay. That's
And they
good.
said that, because I said, how are you gonna know how many people in the house? Nobody signs up.
Mhm.
I said, well, you have to go on the website, and it's the honor system right now,
It is.
so. But
We don't have-
they're not taking it over.
We don't have drones going over everybody's house to see exactly how many people are living there. No.
Wait a minute, I think you do.
Yes, because everybody has been given 4 as a default. If you look on your bill, you've been given 220 gallons per day on the water side. And so if you tell them you're only 1 person on the sewer side, they can't give you 4 persons on the water side, so that will change.
Are there any further public comments?
I have
Nancy
one more
Horton.
question.
Oh,
Nancy, what's the specific website we go to, just?
BDMWD.com.
Okay.
Nancy Horton again.
Sorry, where?
For public
Somebody-
comments?
Oh, another one, that's at another.
Nancy, I'm sorry, did I misunderstand? Is it better to say 4 than 1?
Well, that has consequences. If you say 4, you'll be getting your 220 gallons per day on the water side, but you'll be paying $6.93 in addition to a flat rate for each person in your household. So if you say 4, you're going to be paying $6.93 times 4. So that's why you have to work it out mathematically and figure out what's better for you.
Thank you.
John Stelzner.
Good evening. I want to talk about 3 things this evening. First one is speeding on Railroad Canyon. I don't think the stops or the speeding signs, speed limit signs are working. I drive a small car, mostly my son's actually that he gave me, and I feel like getting run over every time I'm on the Railroad Canyon. I don't know what the answer is. I personally think that maybe if the city added a motorcycle cop once every so often, just randomly, maybe once a month or something. But I think that it's just kind of out of control. I think the object of the new signs may be in the evening to see what happens if you go over 99 miles per hour to the sign. And I noticed that I was out last weekend and I saw that 3 of the signs, all they have is dashes now. So I don't know if they went over the limit and they were stuck someplace, but it's just not working. The second thing I wanted to talk to about was party houses in this community. You probably read in the paper or heard on the news, LA and some of the larger cities are buckling down on this. Right now the POA is taking, I believe, almost all the responsibility for the party houses. Party houses aren't bad if you don't live next to them, but I live next to, or I own a home that was next to a boarding house in here. And every race weekend, this individual has 7 bedrooms and he loaded them up with motorcycle racers. So it's just, if you live next to them, and I understand there's one on Continental that's very bad, but if you live next to them, it's sometimes unbearable with parties going all along. I can't figure out how they can have how a landlord can put up with, they get a lot of money obviously for it, and you can find it, there's a lot of websites to look at, but it just is not fair to the neighborhood. One thing is, the city's losing out on occupancy tax like motel has. So the motel collects money for you from each person that's in there, but these people are renting their homes for a weekend and they're not paying anything to the city. And I think there ought to be some kind of a license maybe, or some way that the city is involved in that. The final thing I wanted to talk about was a article I read in the Press Enterprise a couple weeks ago concerning the city of Menifee. Menifee is concerned about the zip codes in their city. One of the zip codes they have in their city is actually being credited to Marietta.
We share it,
Okay.
and I'm sorry to interrupt
Right.
you, but we do have a time limit, and I want to
I understand.
answer
I
some of
heard
your
it.
issues. No, but we've discussed many times here the Menifee moved to change their zip codes so that everybody understands. The post office only has a limited number of zip codes. If you use your zip code +4, it's always going to come up Canyon Lake. If you use just 92587, it might come up Sun City, it might come up Menifee, it might come up Canyon Lake. There will be no change. We will not be giving a new zip code or have ours taken away or have it be dedicated only to Menifee. None of that will happen. It's just that it's less random than it used to be when you plug into a computer. So that's to answer that. If you have questions about how that happens, email me and I can give you better answers.
No, I'll just say one sentence. The thing that I read was that Menifee is trying to reduce the number of zip codes. If we can get 92587 as ours, maybe it'll help us get sales tax for vehicles.
We have tried that for many years. It's very
I know.
difficult. It's a very difficult process. And I will be meeting, eventually I'll be meeting with the postmaster to try one more time to see what we can do.
Okay.
Real quick, I wanted to address your issues with your neighbors. Call the police. We have business laws.
Yeah, I had, well,
Don't call POA.
Yeah.
POA
I
enforces their own
understand the
rules.
difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
All right.
well, thank you for listening to me.
Okay.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Two checks there, check number 24090 and check number 24111. Both of those are made out to Councilmember Bonner for the exact same amount both for his December reimbursement. However, due to the first check 24090, there was a problem with the check. That check has been voided, and so since it was still on there, that both checks show up on the warrant. However, I have seen the check. It's void, big letters right on the check. Councilmember Bonner will not be receiving check number 24090. It has been reissued for the same amount, with $73.54, under check number 24111. You will see check number 24090 on next month's warrant with a 0 next to it, because that will show the void.
Okay.
I just wanted to make you aware of that on there.
Okay. Thank you. And I think Terry and I talked about it, and we're going to try in the future, if there is one that can be caught on the same, that it'll say void,
Be
so
able
we
to
don't have
say
any more of
right.
this mass confusion.
Right. So we wanted to make sure that that was clear, and there was no confusion whatsoever. Councilmember Bonner will only be receiving one check for reimbursement for December, and that's check number 24111.
Okay.
If it was 100,000, it would be okay.
That's right, $73.
So not $53.
Okay, now back to the consent reading.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the city council, a council member may request that an item be removed for further discussion. Staff recommends approval of all items.
Mayor, this is just for clarification. On the minutes on 5.3, it says Jack Wamsley and Warren underlined. It's Kelsey, K-E-L-S-E-Y. It's on the, just a line, didn't have a last name.
On the agenda?
On the minutes, he's just making a change to the minutes. We're not pulling anything. Anybody have anything that they want pulled from the consent calendar? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move.
Hold on.
Hold
on.
My book was not quite complete, and I do not have the agenda for this meeting, so I'm not sure what items are on the consent. But if the paving or slurry is on the consent calendar, I would like to ask a question before it's approved.
It's on business items, it's not.
Okay.
It's just further back a little bit. Well, apparently we tried something new with the books and it's confused the heck out of the council members. Where is, okay, so there's a green page, just so we don't know, all of that goes here, and this is our, you want mine? I have two.
No, this
She's
week,
got one
I
now.
guess.
Okay, all right, we're good? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent
I already
calendar?
made a motion.
Emotion, we have a motion, a second? Okay, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye. Has to be roll call because there's funding involved.
Okay. So let's do a roll call instead of aye.
Councilmember Bonner,
Yes.
Councilmember Aircats,
Yes.
Councilmember Haggerty,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Yes.
Mayor Warren.
Yes. Okay, on to 7.1. 7.2, adoption of resolution number 2018-07, approving claims and demands of the city.
That's, we did all that.
We did, that's all
That's
the
all part of the
consent.
consent, so you're on item 9.
We're on line 9, sorry about that. Oh, notices of future events, they're all on the city calendar. If there's anything that anybody finds that is not there, please let us know, we can put, if you have something that you'd like to have added, we can put that on there. Item 10, business items, 10.1. Review of the 2017-2018 mid-year budget.
Your Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, City staff, we're back here for the mid-year. Didn't work? There we go. So the only thing I did to change, I didn't change any of the proposed expenditures. I just added the actual January revenues to my estimates instead of just an estimate. And January is the month where we get our big VLF check, we get our big property tax, and our big sales tax. So we get quite a bit of revenue, sorry, went dark also. And so I updated those projections, so you can see in the discussion section for the revenues, property taxes are gonna be up, so I raised those 8,000. The fire structure fees are gonna be up, so I raised those 10. Sales tax is gonna be way up, so I raised that 15. The BLF swap, we get exactly 2 checks, and so I just doubled the one we got, and then that was a $27,000 increase. The UUT is going up, so 12,000, and then the 2 grants. Expenditures, we're right on track, like I said last time, but there's some items that we needed to add. And if anybody wants to go over any of these, any questions, these were the same as last time. Any big questions? The largest one is number 2 there, the $40,000 to hire a consultant for the UUT polling. We all know how important that tax is to the city. So, any questions? So as you can see down at the bottom, our original budget back in June had a $63,000 surplus. We upped leisure with $10,000, so that got us to about a 53. And then with the additional changes, we end up with a surplus of about $15,600. And so then these are, you can see revenues I'm projecting to be up about 185,000. Expenditures, we did a great job, council did a good job adopting the budget last year. We're right on track with everything, nothing out of line. The reason it says 56 there is that because it has the carryover of the fire station, that 110,000, that's the difference there. And then here's the proposed journal entries, or budget entries. So a total of increase in revenues of about 81,000. And then here's the expenditure increases. And so those total 118,000, which then leaves us that bottom number there, a budget surplus of about 16,000. And then we also have about $16,000 adjustment for bolts for the railroad canyon. So any questions on any of these items?
Terry, just for clarification, the surplus includes the expenditure on the UUT?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Sorry, any other questions?
So we have a balanced budget then, huh?
Yes, sir.
Plus a little. So we're in the black again. Hallelujah.
The revenues are up quite a bit, so I mean, that's good news. The building permit fees are up, but the expenses are also up because they go hand in hand. So I didn't include any of that. And towards the end of the year, when we know closer, I'll come back with a budget adjustment for that, but that'll be towards the end of April or May. So.
Okay.
That's great.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
That's a little scarier than that last one.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a sec.
Can we get a motion and then a roll call vote to approve the changes?
But there's questions from the audience.
I'm sorry.
We can,
Yes.
So you want the public comment?
Comment?
Yeah, can we do that first so that we answer any questions? Okay, they didn't fill out little slips, I don't think, that's okay. They don't have to. Come on up. Nancy, would you like to come up?
Questions, Public Works.
Nancy, microphone.
Public Works, Professional and Specialized Services, I'm sorry, next one, NPDES, Special Enforcement Salary Savings from Gene retiring. I'm just asking, is anybody else doing this job, or was it just because Gene's retiring made a savings? Is there somebody still doing NPDES?
Yes, somebody is still doing NPDS, special enforcement does that. We were just using Gene's salary savings and reorganizing the department to be more efficient.
And the same question under Special Enforcement, it's the same thing, her retirement and...
Right, it was one to cross out the other, right, it's moving salaries, correct, Terry, to put them in the correct places. But yes, NPDS is still being done by city staff.
And her position with the Special Enforcement position is still there?
Her position was code enforcement
Yeah.
officer, and so with the staff we have now, we have Ruby, who's our code enforcement technician, and our senior special enforcement officer, Gina, is also has a very strong code background, and so that's where that's all being covered from.
Thank you.
Jack, did you have a question? Well, you've got to come up to the microphone, Jack, for Pete's sake. You'd think he'd know this by now.
Anyway, generally, when we go to POA, they give us a copy of your budget, and I would like to have, when you put out your bill, just tack a copy of your budget on the top. And I know you get it on the computer, and that's providing your computer's working. And so I just wondered why, we couldn't have a copy of that as you're producing this. And there's not that many people, we could just add it to this.
You need to have available at the meetings, like tonight?
Yeah,
Meeting?
tonight, yeah.
We can talk about that and
They're in the back. They're in the back, Jack. I believe there should. We made several copies.
Okay.
Staff report with the
You must have
information.
added that, because it wasn't when I said that.
it was Nessie.
It should have been.
Yeah, because you came at 3 o'clock.
Jordan was supposed to point all this out to you when he was sitting down here alone.
I did.
See, he did.
I missed that part. I rescind my request.
Okay, never mind. So we'll pretend that Jack never walked up to the microphone. Okay, so can we get the staff report, I think is next, or are we?
That's
Okay,
good.
so
I mean,
we're good?
yeah, you'll just quickly, there was a little typo in the original staff report. It didn't have all the information. It initially showed the $19,000 deficit, but that was referencing it before. It has been fixed, or now you can see now it was the surplus of $63,000. Then if the changes are approved, that surplus now goes to $15,500,
Okay,
which is stated correctly under the budget impact on page 2.
okay. Okay, now we need to get a motion.
I make a motion to approve the budget, mid-year budget approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bonner?
Yes.
Councilmember Aaron-Krantz?
Yes.
Councilmember Haggerty?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes. Okay, passes 5-0. Item 10.2. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, honorable members of the City Council and City staff. I'm here presenting a recommendation to award contract for the Slurry Seal FY 2017-2018 project. And the recommendation is that City Council award and authorize the city manager to execute a contract and the city associate engineer to administer the terms of the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, All American Asphalt of Corona, California, in the not to exceed amount of $263,241.63 for the completion of the Slurry Seal FY 2017-2018, project number 2017-01, and authorize the amounts of $26,324 for contingency, $24,120.50 for engineering, design, and an estimated $37,000 for construction, contract, administration, and inspection by Charles Abbott Associates, for a total construction budget in the amount of $350,686.29, and approve the plans and specifications prepared for this project. So to give background, on February 6, 2018, a request for bids was advertised for the slurry seal project. The February 21st, 2018 bid opening yielded 4 bids. The lowest bid received was from All American Asphalt for $260,141.63. So in the staff report, there's a table that lists all of the bids that were received. So upon checking the price bid for unit items, the mathematical total of the low bid was $100 higher than submitted, which brought the low bid to $263,241.63. This technical error can be waived without changing the result of the bidding. So the second low bidder also had a mathematical error in their bid. Based on sealed competitive bids received after publicly advertising, All American Asphalt of Corona, California is the apparent lowest responsible bidder. Staff has reviewed their references and submittal documents and recommends to award to All American Asphalt. So with regard to fiscal impact, slurry seal FY 2017-2018 budget of $350,686.29 was anticipated for fiscal year 2017-2018. On June 20th, 2017, City Council approved resolution number 2017-09, which included an increase of $530,000 to the gas tax special revenue fund for the completion of the slurry seal FY 2017-2018 project. So we have a table that specifies the anticipated staff and construction costs, and that totals to a total projected project expense of $350,686.29. There's also a table that analyzes the available funds and compares it to the projected project expense. So considering the available budget of $530,000 and a projected project expense of $350,686.29, there are sufficient funds for this project. Hope I didn't bore you guys with all the numbers.
No, we got it. I have a question.
Sure.
Is now the time?
Yep,
Councilman.
now's the time.
Okay, couple things. One, I did not read the whole contract. I have to confess, I was sick all weekend and I just couldn't deal with it. I just want to know if there was a non-completion on time penalty built into the contract.
So they are subject to liquidated damages, which is for $250 a day, and the contract is also bonded to ensure that the project is complete to our standards.
Okay, and the second thing, I did read where references were done. When I was on the POA board, we did the slurry for the whole POA, all the roads, and references were done, and I suppose the due diligence required was done. After it was completed, we had numerous problems, and we had to go back, have them come in. They are still having problems, and it has not lasted as long as it was projected to last. They're already having issues with it. So I have some concerns about the references. I know that many companies they provide references and you call the reference and they go, yeah, they did a great job, and that's the end of it. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that process, and I just wonder how thorough your references were. How many did you do? Who were they? I saw there was a gazillion cities listed there. And I went, did you call cities? Did you call individuals within the city in planning or in?
So typically, the references that are listed are contacted. I know at least a handful were in this case. However, All American Asphalt happened to work in other cities that are contracted with Charles Abbott Associates, and so we actually do have experience with them. And I myself work in the city of Yucaipa, and I know All American Asphalt just completed a slurry seal project for that city. And I was actually meeting with one of the construction managers today about their work, and he highly praised them. So we do have experience with this company in particular and are familiar with their work.
Was the high praise shortly after it was done?
Both, okay, so for the city of Yucaipa, yes, and they've also worked in the city of Yucaipa many years ago, and then for other cities, yes as well. So
Okay.
there has been time, and cities have been pleased with their work. So we are confident in All American Asphalt.
Okay. Thank you.
If I could,
I know that you've explained to us before why this is an important project. Can you do that one more time?
Sure,
for us?
absolutely. So typically, when a road is brand new constructed, the idea is to try to get anywhere between 20 to 30 years out of the road life before you have to completely rebuild it like it was done 5 years ago. New road base, new engineering, everything like that. There is what they call the pavement
Control index.
Pavement control index, PCI index. And so when you do a new road, it starts at 100%. Well, over time, it starts degrading and it goes down. The idea is you want to keep it, you don't want to fall below 70%. If you fall below 70%, then there's greater chance for road failure, cracking, road base deterioration, so not getting to that 25-year life. And so by doing it with the industry, you want to try to do some kind of treatment about every 5 years. Luckily, I have to say, in my career in local government, this is the best road I've ever seen. For where we sit in Southern California with the amount of sunshine and heat that road takes, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Margaret and Ken, but we have no crack ceiling, do we? There are no cracks.
Very small
Small crack,
area.
but it hasn't been crack sealed, correct? There's no, and as if you notice, we have some very thin potholes eastbound in lanes 1 and 2 between Black Horse and Sorrel, which have kind of come up over about the last year, but they're very thin, but we knew this project was coming. There's no real, and they're not deep enough really for us to patch it. That section of road will be grinded up and redone a little bit more thoroughly than the rest of it will. The idea is you do it at 70%, then we do the slurry treatment at 5 years. Basically, it's a whole new road. We're back to 100%. So if you can keep it at 100, between 70 and 100% every 5 years, I'm shooting for a 30-year road life here. So that's what it is. By spending what we initially estimated about $500,000, we're coming in at $350,000. If we do that every 5 years, typically to rebuild a road is about $1 million a mile.
About that, yes.
So here we've got about 2 miles of road, so it'd be $2 million to rebuild the road. Or we can spend between $350,000 and $500,000 every 5 years, so we would spend probably about $2 million to get to a 30-year life, as opposed to maybe $2 million after 10 years. And so this is typically what you want to do to keep that road nice. We know Menifee's already done theirs, it'll fill right in, and I know Lake Elsinore's will be working on theirs this summer as well.
Excellent. All right, thank you.
That's what I've been told, they'll be expanding that.
Does council have any questions? I know we have at least one from the audience. Well, did you look on the back table first, or are you going to come up and ask?
I just wondered if we have any recourse with reference to the huge building projects taking place in Menifee, and you have another one here in Elsinore, and we're right in the middle, and all the big trucks are traveling up and down our road. Is there any recourse with RCTC?
Yeah, not that we're aware of, no.
I would think, because I followed 2 trucks today, the huge water trucks.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah, the heavy trucks will be on the road, but luckily for us, we're able to use gas tax, and if we have to measure any money, I believe, correct, Terry, we can use on Railroad Canyon. So it doesn't use general fund money.
Well, those cities get money from those.
Yeah, they get gas tax and measure rates as well.
Yeah, and I see no reason why we shouldn't get something out of that. I don't know
We do get
how we
gas
stand
tax
legally there.
from our
So
CTC.
so we do get gas tax, which is what we use to maintain it.
When the road goes to 3 lanes all the way down to Elsinore, the traffic's going to be even worse.
And I think I think Councilmember Bonner has a recommendation, I think, to make with regards to the additional to possible use of the additional savings we talked about.
Chair of the Finance.
The Chair of the Finance Committee, so Mayor Pro Tem, I think Green will address a possible, which this project is allowed to use gas tax, with what he's going to
He's
recommend.
already spent the money that we didn't spend.
Not yet, but it's on our priority list to be done, so I'll chime in whenever.
Okay, because we look like we're gonna end up with about 180,000 left, barring any complications. We have a phase 2 of the wrought iron project, which you look at on Railroad Canyon on the south side. I'm not sure how far to the west, but if you come where Hole 9 is in all that area, it's deteriorated because the water, which is reclaimed water, was on the fence and it's rusted completely through. So we're hoping to take these funds and roll it into that project so that we can kind of finish that as a project with the slurry seal and the fence.
And it's approximately just under $150,000 to do phase 2, is that correct?
Correct.
But that's an option, we have that savings and we can use that, or we can bring that back to you as part of the budget for 18-19.
Well,
It's council's.
originally it was gonna move to the next fiscal year.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, and if you go with the area that Larry is talking about, it looks terrible. It's all rusty, that area. And I think we can use and get it done now versus later. And that's why I recommend we get it done.
And what we can do with regards to that is if the council wants to approve that, you can put in the motion the caveat being as long as we're within the $350 that we're going to spend for the road. If for some reason we have to come back and if there's some significant change orders, obviously when they do the grinding going up the hill towards Sorrel, if there's some road base or something, obviously we'll have to come back to the council for that additional funds, but the money's there and then maybe we will have to hold off on the project. But that'll be something where if they're right on budget, then if the council approves it, as long as they stay on budget, we can use the majority of those funds for phase 2 if the council deems that fit. Otherwise, we'll bring that back to you for next year's budget.
And can I say, as chairman of finance, we will know the numbers because we ask every meeting where we are.
Yes.
And by no means will we get out there. If we look like our project's going over or it looks like there's some question, this was just if in fact we came in on budget or under budget, the potential that we could take care of that fence at the same time.
Right.
So this is not, I'm not saying that we run these two concurrently, but if it appears that the slurry seal project is going to come in and it's going to come in right on the numbers, then we'll bring that to you and say, plug the fence in. If the council
Yeah, we can report, if you give us the authorization, what we'll do is before we start the project, we'll come back and give the completion of the project where we are budget-wise, and if you say go, then you've already made the approval, and we can go ahead and start the fencing project.
I have a question about the fence. It seems to me that a lot of it has deteriorated much worse or faster than expectation. Was that powder coat painted or what was, do you remember?
We're not sure, we believe it was paint, and actually what accelerated the deterioration was before they realigned the irrigation system, all that fence was hit with water on a daily basis, and that just sat on there, and because there's a lot of salt content in the recycled water, and it not being powder coated, the metal started to deteriorate. Once it got past the paint, it wasn't caught quick enough, and so therefore it just slowly deteriorated. The firm that we used for the other side of the boulevard is powder coated, and they're made pre-made panels, so they're easily replaced instead of being custom made. And so we got something close. It's not exact, but at 40 miles an hour, you can't tell the difference.
Is it galvanized?
It's a steel. It's steel with powder coat over.
So just raw steel and powder coat?
Yeah.
I want to look into galvanizing it because then you don't have to worry about any water.
Yeah.
They have a treatment on there that they advertise a 20-year warranty on it. Yeah. So should it get weathered?
The old stuff that's getting replaced?
The new stuff.
Yeah, the old stuff is.
It didn't last long at all. I thought they just did it a couple years back.
No, it's older than you think, but it's actually most of the bottom rail is gone.
Okay.
or just hanging on, so.
As well as the supports,
Yeah.
and they were never, I guess, installed properly as well. They were used kind of substandard materials.
But
my
the
understanding as
match, the match that we did, across the street looks good, and I think we're on the right track. So if we stay on budget, with our slurry seal, this gives us an opportunity to clean that site up.
Okay. Do we have further comments, discussion from the council? So I think we're looking for kind of a hybrid motion here, right?
Right, so to approve the award of the bid, as stated in the recommendation in the staff report, and if it stays on budget, that those remaining $179,000 funds can be used for phase 2 of the wrought iron replacement project.
Okay. And there was another one also that if they were to go over, if they started to go over in
Right.
any way, even come close, should we set a dollar figure? If they, right now it's at 350, if they,
I think we go over that.
If we go over the 350, I think that's the idea. Is this is our budget amount we want to stick to.
okay.
I don't think we want to give ourselves a little play. I'd like to stick to this.
Okay.
There's already contingency bills.
Good, okay, okay.
So-
I thought somebody had mentioned that they wanted it. Yeah,
So
I think that was mentioned that we would.
If you just want to move approval of item 10.2 as stated on the agenda, I think it will encompass that, and it includes the
Contingency,
contingencies.
so.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion, second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We need a roll call?
Councilmember Bonner?
Yes.
Councilmember Aaronkrantz?
Yes.
Councilmember Haggerty?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Yes.
Mayor Warren?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our next, item 11 is a public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I have to accuse myself from this, the applicant and I have some business together.
Excellent.
Call me when you're done.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will open the public hearing at 7:32. Can we get I'm sorry? Okay, staff presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff. My name is Mark Danacour, and I'm the current city planner for the city of Canyon Lake. Tonight I'm presenting a proposed variance to the hillside ordinance by the applicant Chris Hansen. Chris is interested in purchasing a property and is in escrow. Prior to finalizing the purchase, he wishes to gain approval of a variance to allow for grading of a slope in excess of the 50% or 2-to-1 slope allowed by the hillside ordinance, so that he can create a 1-acre pad and driveway sufficient for emergency access for the development of a single-family home. A variance may be granted in the city council's discretion when, because of special circumstances applicable to a parcel of property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, the strict application of an ordinance deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by property in the vicinity that is under the same zoning classification. Property is located on Sorrel Lane in the estate residential zone. The assessor's parcel number is 355-360-006 and is within the hillside overlay. Any property that falls within the hillside overlay requires compliance with the hillside ordinance. So this slide here is a grading plan that shows a green area, which is the area that he hopes to create a flat pad area for building a single-family home on. The bottom of that, it's a regular shaped lot, and the bottom area, which is gray, is actually the high side of the slope, and then that triangle on the top part of that property is the downhill side. The high side is the proposed 1.5 to 1 cut slope, and that's the area that he's hoping to get this variance for. And there's also a driveway off to the left side of that green area that will most likely require some additional grading steeper than the 2 to 1 slope so that they can get the emergency access. This here is a slope analysis. It's color-coded. The green is has the least slope, which is less than 25%. And the red is the slope area that is greater than 50%. So according to the hillside ordinance, anything over 50% is not supposed to be developed or not supposed to be graded. Now this is an aerial picture, and you can see the subject property is that irregular shape. It has a squiggly driveway and then a little round area kind of in the center of it, which is the only flat area on that parcel. That parcel is about 4.11 acres in size. Right now you can see that that little flat area is much smaller than the surrounding properties. Everyone else in the area and in the same zone have a much larger buildable area, at least 1 acre or more. So this picture here is a view looking east. I would be looking towards Menifee. So you can see that, again, the driveway doesn't really go up or down, it just follows the contour of the land. There's that little small area again. You can see that they've cleared around the perimeter of this parcel. It's kind of distinguished by that brownish area. And again, you can see all these other graded pads and houses in the area are much larger than that little circle. This is the estate residential area, and along with the estates, you usually have larger homes. And here's a picture looking south. You can see the Railroad Canyon Road down on the bottom right corner, and from there the slope just goes upwards towards the upper left area of that screen. And then you can see again the subject property. You can see that little pad area, and you can see the kind of the irregular formation of that lot. It has a couple of hills, so it's kind of wavy. Right now, the way it is, it's very difficult to build anything there. So this is a recommendation slide, but before I make a recommendation, I'd like to talk about issues that the city experienced back in December of 2010 with the construction of the home Chris currently lives in on Sorrel Lane. After the Planning Commission meeting last month and prior to this meeting, I was provided with additional information that you may want to consider before making a decision. From what I read of this information, Chris Hansen's development of the house he lives in was in violation of the Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Control Board regulation regarding Water Quality Management Plan, WQMP, and Best Management Practices, BMPs, and also the Hillside Ordinance. It was most likely the result of errors and miscommunication. The first plan check Chris submitted was a conceptual grading plan that was presented to the planner at the time, Paul Rule, and from his review of that grading plan, he made a decision that, or a determination that the area being developed was exempt from the hillside ordinance and did not require a hillside permit, and that he assessed that it didn't have slopes in excess of 25%. Any slopes on a property that are within the hillside overlay have slopes of 25% or more triggers the hillside ordinance or a hillside permit requirement. Let's see, and so with this exemption from the hillside ordinance and no mention of the WQMP requirement, Chris moved forward with this project and submitted new grading plans Then he applied for and received a grading permit from the city and started grading. This took place late in the year, around December, when we often experience storm events. Prior to one of those storm events, code enforcement was in the area and noticed the grading and inquired about a grading permit. Chris provided that grading permit. Then they placed some sandbags down in an attempt to manage any stormwater runoff. This threat of a storm triggered an all-out investigation of the construction site. The grading plans were reevaluated and found to show slopes greater than 25% and some of them up to 42%, which triggered a hillside ordinance violation and the need for the WQMP. Chris was informed of these developments and did try to comply by hiring a company to install these best BMPs, which are best management practices, which included silt fencing. But the fencing they put up was incorrect, and he had to fix that. In the meantime, Chris received a couple of violations and a stop work order and ended up having to pay some fees. Eventually, most everything was resolved, but it appears to have created some friction between some city officials and Chris Hansen. It appears to be that Chris has learned from this experience and is attempting to do everything right. That is why he is requesting this variance. He knows about the hillside ordinance, up to the WQMPs, the BMPs, and hopes the council will vote favorably towards this project. Now, the conditions of approval for this project require grading plans, a geotechnical report, and drainage mitigation, all to be provided prior to any ground disturbance, should this variance be approved. Let me finish by just saying that this is just a request for a variance to the hillside ordinance. It is not an approval of a grading plan or development. There is no ridge line impacted by this proposal, and it is just to allow a steeper cut than the ordinance allows. The only concern I have about this project is the amount of material to be removed, which is 30,000 cubic yards, and that's a lot of material. With that information, staff is requesting direction from the city council on how to proceed. If you wish to recommend approval, I can come back with an approval resolution at the next meeting. If you request denial, I can do the same. We can also send it back to the planning committee for further review, or possibly you could just approve the driveway and allow him to build on the existing path. That ends my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. Chris Hansen is here. Answer questions. We also have Margaret here, who is experienced with grading and engineering questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very clear. We do have some additional input from Margaret. Can you come up and give us a little bit of a background on the current situation?
There's a couple of things that I had before me to review, and one was the existing project, and just to make a long story short, it's quite a bit of data that I went through, so I just want to let you know that it wasn't actually resolved. As far as I can tell, the WQMP is still outstanding.
Could you repeat that? You said it
wasn't resolved, as in the existing property.
You're talking about
The existing,
prior property.
Yeah, the prior property. So as far as I can tell from the data that I have, the WQMP hasn't been approved.
That's the watershed. Right.
Yes, for the existing property. And the city actually has a letter of violation because it wasn't submitted to the state board. So I would have to do some further investigation as to whether or not that actually had been approved, had been cleared, So, I read this today and I just about had a heart attack. This is someplace that you don't want to have a city, as in, in a bad place with the state. So, that being the case, the new case can be mitigated, in looking at the existing hillside ordinance. There's some very specific requirements for a conceptual grading plan. And I had quite a few comments on that grading plan. And I didn't see a resubmittal of that grading plan. So, and it goes on. So,
Are you saying you don't have the grading plan?
you saw exactly what I saw on the screen.
And that's not considered a grading plan?
They called it a conceptual grading plan, but in the hillside ordinance, there is line after line after line after line of requirements that are supposed to be on that plan, and they're not there. In addition to that, for approval, even though, for example, you can condition it for a grading plan, you can condition it for a geotechnical report. If the applicant's engineer has said that there's bedrock out there, I don't know that to be a fact until they actually do a geotechnical report. And if, for example, the bedrock is at an attitude where the toe would be cut off, then there would be a problem with them actually doing the 1.5 to 1 grading. So, generally speaking, you can approve a variance based on the results of the engineering. So, you wouldn't be approving a grading plan, you wouldn't be approving the results of a geotechnical report, which currently doesn't exist.
This would be more like blind faith going in without.
You could actually require that all of this be worked out ahead of time. At least from what I read in the hillside ordinance, you are allowed to approve a variance for a property that has constraints based on the slopes and based on the surrounding properties. I don't see any issue with that. What I do want and what I would like to see is more information rather than just, okay, this is what we'd like to do.
Specifically, that you want a geotechnical report?
Microphone.
And you want a grading plan?
Microphone.
You want the grading plan and you want a geotechnical report? Those are two issues that...
Actually, I would not need anything beyond the conceptual grading plan, but very specifically, the grading plan that was submitted has 10-foot contour intervals, and the hillside ordinance requires no more than 2-foot contour intervals. The slope analysis doesn't even show this little tiny flat area. It doesn't show the driveway. It shows that almost the entire lot is completely encompassed in 25% and greater than 50%.
So you would like to see a slope analysis that reflected the existing changes?
Yes, ma'am.
Margaret, do you have these ID'd where the applicant would know what additional things you're going to ask for? Where he would not be resubmitting something that would have additional things that would need to be, because in fairness for him, he needs to know what he has to be in compliance with.
And I can clear this up, I can clear this up.
But you will, I'm sorry, but we all.
I do have a list.
Okay, that's what I'm
And
referring to.
I had asked for a plan to be resubmitted. In addition to any comments on here, I just made a blanket statement, comply with the hillside ordinance and the requirements for the grading plan. That's pretty much the limits of what I got to say.
Could I comment at this point, or did you want
Well, I'm not sure, I'm a little, what I don't want is a lot of back and forth right now. Let's discuss and get council comments. Thank you. You're on.
Okay. I applaud the gentleman for Rick Hansen for his creativity. I think having a home that's compatible with the other homes up there would be more beneficial than building a small home on the existing small space. I don't have a problem with changing the existing plans. I don't have a problem with approving any variances. The only thing I feel at this point, I would like to recommend to the council that we refer this back to the planning committee or commission, planning department, that whatever needs to be presented to you by Mr. Hansen be completed on the prior residence and his current plans, that you review everything, make sure everything is in order, and then bring us the bottom line. Okay, he's complied with everything with his prior existing problems. He's complied with the needs that I have, current needs that I have, and at that point, you could recommend to the council that we approve moving forward based on everything being to compliance. I don't have a problem at all with what you're doing. I just want to make sure that everything is in compliance, that we have proof. If you have compliance, I would like them to have proof of it, be able to show the council this is all in compliance, and then as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to approve the variance.
Before you do, I need to get a point of order here. Sorry, but we've got to go through the formalities. So I understand that you have something that may not jive with something Margaret said. Margaret's got stuff that doesn't jive with you. You've got stuff that wants to go back and forth. I don't know at this point that we're going to go forward with that part of the public hearing, because the recommendation may be that I just don't want you wasting your time, basically.
Excuse me.
Yes.
It's a notice public hearing.
Okay.
People who come, they have the right to speak unless
Okay.
they choose not to.
Okay.
I would suggest to you, there does appear to be some loose ends here.
Right.
If you decide that is the case, then I think there could be a discussion of how you want to clear those up, perhaps send it back to staff to resolve with some additional documents, some additional work with Mr. Hansen, and then come back to the planning committee and the council as a whole. But can we pause for a moment and wait for Randy?
Sure. And then you'll be next. We're just going to take a 2-minute break, and then you get your turn at the mic.
Are there going to be any other questions from?
There will be, yeah.
From the council?
Yeah, I think the council is discussing also. we're back. Are there, before Chris speaks, are there any other questions from the council to staff on this?
I just want to say that,
Microphone?
okay, being one half of the planning committee, I'm a little disappointed we had the meeting and find out that we didn't have all the information to make a final decision. And I'm really disappointed that we got to this point. But I agree with what Dawn is saying. I think it makes a lot of sense. We get all the requirements to be done, make sure it's clear on both the planning side and from the Chris Hansen, and get this thing behind us and make a decision one way or another. But delaying it, to me, is not the best, the way I think the city is supposed to operate.
Okay, any other? Okay, you're up.
All right, son. All right, so I have a lot of ground to cover in 3 minutes. So I'm not exactly sure how this new project is getting tied up with a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old project.
Before you go further, can I let you
Okay.
know? Okay. When this opened up and it was discussed, the first thing that pops up is a very controversial, very important issue, the hillside ordinance. It starts casting a light on everything that has to do with it. Your name was prominent, so it's just collateral damage, and I'm sorry that that's the way it happened, but it is that once you start looking at something, it goes further beyond, and it has everything to do with this one here also, so.
WQMP is signed off. It was done about 8 months ago. I have no issues with my current residents. Absolutely, I have documentation. Nobody in the last 8, 10 months, 2 years has ever come to me and asked me, what is going on with this? Nobody. So all they have to do is ask or check the files at WQMP. It was signed off, done. So I would have expected someone to come to me before laying me away here on public forum, come to me and at least ask the questions. They would have had the answers, number one. So with that being put aside, also when I built my project, we're gonna go back there. So that was my first house I ever built, okay? Lot of lessons that were learned, but I fell back and used the planning department and the city to guide me. Never was I asked of WQMP, never was I asked of anything other than was asked of me and I provided. So I went into this project only knowing what was told to me before they issued my permit. They gave me my permit, I moved forward like anybody else would do as owner builder. The issue became after I closed out my permit, I received final. WQMP then contacted me when I wanted to close out WQMP because I was paying, I think it was $800 a year that I couldn't get rid of. And they said, no, you didn't do this, this, and this. Well, it became a match between myself, WQMP, and the city. Somehow or another, WQMP contacted me and said, do this, this, and this. It's finalized. What they were asking me to do is to dig up my basketball court, my front yard, my pool, and put in catch basins that would filter the water properly. Obviously, not a big deal when it's a graded lot and I can get to all those areas. Now they're asking me to dig up my estate that would have cost probably $300,000 for front yard, backyard, and so forth. So I thought all that was behind me. I didn't know I was still gonna have to discuss that here today. For me, that's behind me. And I'll give you whatever documentation you need to see that it is behind us. This new project here is, for me, why maybe not everything is done to what Margaret had asked for, the geo and the soils and all that stuff. That's tens of thousands of dollars. I just want to know, can we get over the hump of the hillside ordinance? If I follow, if geo checks the box, grading checks the box, fire department checks the box, everything works, are we okay with cutting 50% slope and creating what everybody else up there has, what everybody else has done there prior to the hillside ordinance? That's all I want to do on that new lot. Nothing more, nothing less. So it's a concept right now, and that's all I need to know is before I start spending another $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on reports, to hear the committee go, yeah, we don't think we like that idea, I don't need to throw money away.
Yeah, I understand what.
I just wanna know, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? If I do, if all those boxes get checked, which I have every, you know, I think, I mean, I have all the ability to get all those boxes checked. Geo will check it, everybody will check out. If that all checks out, do you guys like the idea of having another estate up there on a hill that can't be built on right now? That you can't even turn a Volkswagen Bug around on the path that's there. So, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. We have other public comments on this subject?
Barry Talbot.
Evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. You probably will recall that I was pretty much involved with the city council at the time a lot of this was going on, particularly in creating the hillside ordinance. And what seems like a relatively simple thing, the hillside ordinance is very important to our city to maintain the beautiful hillsides all around us, to provide protection to all homes that might be below any kind of building that goes on slopes like that, and general principles that are described within the ordinance itself. I think sometimes my recollection is that when the city asked for some information, it got some, but it was incomplete, and asked for more, and we never got the additional information, particularly on grading plans. But that's what I recall. It was 10 years ago, so it might be a little bit foggy on that. But on the issue of he just wants to have homes, a new home like other homes up there. If we take that attitude, then that voids the whole hillside ordinance. Everybody can do the same thing. So there goes our hillside ordinance. It doesn't make any sense. And I think we want to keep the hillside ordinance. I don't think we want to set a precedent like that in our community. This is not a minor variance. This is a major variance with major violations of the hillside ordinance. You can also build a house on the existing facility without having to do all that grading. This grading discussed so far didn't even describe what had to be done for the driveway to get back there. It's a long driveway. And why do you need a 45,000 square foot plot to put a 3,500 house on? 3,500 square foot house doesn't need over 40,000 square foot plot to put it on. It doesn't make much sense to me. I think the city and the applicant had some struggles. Some of the conversations, some of the issues that arose during that time became malevolent. It was rancorous. It was difficult to work with each other to get any kind of compromises done. So it doesn't set a good example for what might happen in a very difficult planning operation here. Timelines are a little bit different, I think, what I can tell. It didn't go quite as smoothly as what it should have been in order for the existing home to have been properly conditioned. We had a lot of neighbors complaining about flooding downhill from them, a lot of problems with that. And like you said, it did violate the hillside ordinance. And I, to this day, don't understand how he got that around the hillside ordinance at that time. I just don't understand. Somebody dropped the ball. So that's without a doubt. And that ordinance in detail was discussed with the applicant at the time, way before any structure was built there, just during the grading phase. So all that information was made available before structure was built. So in order to better protect homes downhill from that and better protect our community and our surroundings, I think we wouldn't want to give the applicant the idea that we're willing to take major exceptions to the ordinance. Thank you for your time.
I know we have a 3-minute rule and we're trying to stay with as much as possible, but this situation, we may go beyond from time to time, and everybody will be given the same consideration, just so you know. I wasn't watching yours either.
I didn't even watch my watch.
I didn't either,
Keep
just thought
going.
I'd let you know. We have additional public speakers.
John Stelzner.
I don't know where to start. I know Chris because of my association with the POA, but I've not socially known him at all. So I'm just looking, I didn't come here for this tonight, but I'm here looking at it, and it seems like a lot of the things that kind of is making possible that you'll lean to saying negative or no on this is based on the fact of his previous house. Which just doesn't, it seems like that is one item, and the new house is a different item. I have been up there, actually, because of my position in the POA, I actually have seen a plan for it with, you know, for the thing that I think he presented to you. It hasn't been presented to the POA at all. We were up there recently to look at the house, or the property next door to him on the left side, between the church and this property. The problem with these lots up there is that when Corona Land Company graded them, they graded them to meet the minimum requirements of the CC&Rs. The lot's small, the actual building pad. And I think maybe the city didn't do the due diligence it should have done in presenting this to you to make sure everything is there so you can make an answer. But you're kind of holding them up on being able to do this and be able to make the sale go through between him and the seller. But if there is some way that maybe you can look at it and say, if you meet these steps and provide that information and it meets all the criteria that you wanted to, then you could approve it. But I think that you really need to put some stipulations on it, but there is a problem on this lot, the pad's too small. So, thank you.
I appreciate the comments, but the direction that you're asking us to go in, that's the direction we're heading. So that's all we're asking for is further clarification. And I did want to say quickly to you, I understand that you feel like you're kind of being thrown laid bare here. And that was not intentional in any way. We have a process as a city council that we have to go through. I can't call Randy and say, what do you think of this? And then call Donna and say, what do you think of this? I could, but I'd be in a lot of trouble. So we're not allowed to do that. So this public nonsense is what, the public nonsense is needed. So that's why we're here doing what we're doing.
I thought I was just coming in for a new lot, new construction build, did not know I was getting laid away on my old residence.
Yeah, we can't, I couldn't call you up. I've got rules that I gotta go by. And so here we're dealing with this now. Do we have anybody else, any other public comments? You're not public, you're staff. Nancy Horton.
I was one of the two people on the planning commission when the previous property was under examination for construction. I really thank Margaret for the thoroughness that she went to find out what was in the report previously. That's really, really important. I came here expecting that nobody would have done that, so I really thank you for that. There were a couple of things that were missing in that report. It may have been there, but something Margaret didn't highlight. In the first case, Mr. Hansen exceeded the footprint that he was supposed to be grading by between 7 and 20%. That was a problem because he didn't follow the plans. We needed an engineering report and did not get it. There was an emergency situation. A very big storm was coming, and the property did not have a silt fence or wattles to protect soil from going downhill and landing on the property down below, a very serious thing. And so we required Mr. Hansen, I think we gave him 72 hours to get a company, and he found a company, and they did finally get a silt fence up, and they got the wattle in place. But our code enforcement officer actually spent most of a Sunday evening putting sandbags out himself because water was pouring down the street and bringing earth with it. And it was a very serious problem for the people living below and the street itself. I'm not against this situation. If the council decides on a variance, I don't have a problem with it. because I hope that the planning agency is going to follow every step of the way and make sure that Mr. Hanson follows every single procedure that's required and that you get the paperwork for everything that is required, WQMB, the grading plan, whatever it is that you need. I understand he needs to know ahead of time whether you're going to approve this because he's not going to spend the money for a geotechnical thing, but a geotechnical report is what you really need on this, because if it says that this cannot be built, then he's wasting his time. So everybody needs that information. The other thing that I didn't know about, it says that he's going to have to remove 30,000 cubic yards of material in order to get down to the level that he needs to be. And I happen to have read the Surface Mining Act of 1975, and it says on 1 acre of property you can remove 1,000 cubic yards, and that's considered a residential removal that you need to do. But over that is considered a mining situation. So 30,000 cubic yards on a 1 acre piece of property is hugely excessive for a residential situation.
It's 4 acres and that's it.
Again, our 4 acres is still hugely out of whack. So again, I am putting all of my faith in the planning committee and in the planning department to make sure that everything happens. And I understand it was the first house that Mr. Hanson built, so it's okay, we all make mistakes. But there were mistakes that were made that were not mistakes. They were pretty deliberate things that were in his favor. And we did have a tremendous amount of back and forth all the time to get what we needed. And I think we made some mistakes. I think the city made some mistakes and allowed some things to go on that shouldn't have gone on. But I don't take the position that this is a wrong thing to ask for a variance. I think the council needs to make that decision. But every single day that requirements aren't produced, that paperwork isn't submitted, that engineering reports and geotechnical reports are not available, then there should be a stop work order until it's all there. And I think it's going to be a difficult one, but I don't take the position that he can't have a variance if all of the other things are in place. So that I was one of the people that was a proponent of the hillside and ridgeline ordinance. It was for very important reasons for our city. But I do see that that area, the estates, is made up of all of these same types of properties. The other thing is, I don't feel that if we give in on this one, we've given in to everybody. They're all different situations. But I don't want to see an owner take advantage of the city of Canyon Lake. That is really important to me, that people comply with the regulations and do so willingly, even though it's very expensive. There's another issue. Just at the corner of Sorrel and Railroad Canyon, there's another piece of property that's being graded right now. And I don't know where the planning department is on it or the city, but it's been going on for a long time, and I wondered why, because it falls into the same exact situation. Nothing should be done unless the city is aware of it, and I would hope code enforcement is out there finding out what is going on with that property. Thank you.
Can I say something?
I believe so. We're still having public comments.
So this is to Nancy. So yeah, 30,000 is a lot of dirt. When I gave directions to my soils and my grading engineer, it was supposed to balance, not to take 30,000 cubic yards out. So that is actually going to be changing to where it's probably going to be 20,000 and it's going to balance. There's not going to be any export on that job site. Everything's going to stay on site for fill and for compaction.
So you're moving it?
We are moving it, yeah. Yeah, that would have been, to move 30,000 cubic yards would have been about $200,000 in trucking. So my guy missed the boat when I told him that I need an acre pad. By changing those numbers a little bit, I can balance the dirt, and there is no export.
Keep us all from panicking.
What's that?
Keep us all from panicking.
Yeah, no, so again, this is just conceptual. I just don't, I've already spent $12,000 and I don't even own the property yet.
Right, right. You are attempting to determine whether you can build the house that you want to build on there.
That's it. I'm simply in escrow, spending money, and I just need to try to get some answers
Okay.
so I don't ruin a sale.
Okay. I think we have everything we need. Anybody, anything else from the council? Okay, hold on.
A couple of responses to Barry on the hillside ordinance. We all know what that was put in place for. It was not to protect the beautiful hillside and keep people from building on the hill. It was to prevent the mining of rock on Goats Hill. So as the houses are developed on the pads on that hillside, I do not think it deters in any way from the beauty of Canyon Lake. We have a lot of hills to look at. First of all, we can all look at that rocky Goats Hill mess if we want to look at a hill. So there are already houses there. Precedent was set before the ordinance with the size of the pads and the homes. And I believe in consistency. If you're going to build a hillside home, I think it should be consistent with the other ones as much as possible. So, as I said before, I do not have a problem with approving the ordinance. What I have a problem with is just making sure that, I don't know if we could approve it tonight contingent upon your bringing anything up to the requirements on your existing house and contingent upon providing any requirements, any plans, anything that we need in the future, that it will not be approved unless you comply with the final approval will not be unless we're sure that you comply with every other thing that you need.
And I'm good with that.
A comment.
Yeah.
You can't approve it tonight as your planner told you, because you don't have the necessary findings in front of you.
Right.
He has drafted them, and let me maybe go ahead, Larry, and then I make a suggestion to summarize where you are, and maybe you could decide how you want to proceed next.
Okay, a couple things are important here. I've heard Mr. Hanson, because I asked you specifically in the planning, 30,000 cubic yards is a lot of dirt. And I asked you what you were going to do with it. And tonight it was changed from moving a lot of it off-site, because I asked specifically it's going to be infill, and we talked about the cost. So I think in order for us, and I would think council to go, is we need as complete of a plan of the intent for this issuance of the variance and what's going to take place with the conditions that Margaret has identified that we didn't have in front of us, in order for us to look at those and be satisfied to bring it back before the body here so that they can decide if it can be moved forward. Not to slow you down, but we've got new information that's coming into the process, and I think that's the best avenue for us.
So are you asking me to go spend a bunch of money on the geo reports and everything else?
Actually, we're not asking you to do anything just yet. We've got to decide at the council the direction that we're going to take from here. So,
There's one. You could have done it for me. There's one additional point. Let me explain why from a planning policy perspective and in your ordinance. There's a concept in planning that a person who's not in compliance can't put in an application for another project. I'm not saying Mr. Hanson is not in compliance. I'm saying that what I saw in the file was confusion, as did Margaret. So we want to confirm, number one, that everything is wrapped up on the prior property. And yes, I know it was a long time ago, and I agree that the city did not necessarily do every point right, but it remains unwrapped up on our side, and that needs to be completed. And I think Margaret explained why. So second, I would suggest that the route you want to take is to perhaps send this back for Mr. Hanson to work with staff, as the Mayor Pro Tem suggested, to provide an updated project description. It sounds to me like at a minimum, you need a contour map that has the smaller, whatever it is you call those things. Yeah, those. And because that's what the hillside ordinance requires. There can be a discussion of what studies are appropriate as opposed to deferred. There can be a discussion of conditions or contingencies on the variance. And then the question, and I think goes to your estate area, this is a process you may have to go through on a case-by-case basis. We know that every house there is going to need a driveway variance, in part because of the size of fire equipment since the time the ordinance was adopted. And so you know that. So probably you're going to hear these on a case-by-case basis. So the question is, how do you want to send it back to staff and have it re-agendized when it's ready? Do you want to continue it and bring it back to the council as a whole? Do you want to send it back to the planning committee? We recommended the planning committee, but I don't know after this discussion that that's the right thing, and I don't know that they're willing to do it. So I think you have an idea what you want to do. How would you like to do it?
Well, let's hear from everybody. Don, how would you like to do it?
Well, I'll address Margaret and Mr. Hanson. Would you do have a problem with sitting down together and going through everything that needs to be done? He can respond, he can bring any papers you have that she doesn't have a record of and work this whole thing out. We can, I realize this is, time is of the essence for you. I don't know how long is your escrow an open end?
No, it's already been pushed out 4 times.
Okay, I don't know if the city could call a special meeting to approve the ordinance based on the results or not approve it based on the results of the two of you working together. That's something that I would be willing to suggest. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but I think the main thing we need to be concerned about is just that everything is the way it's supposed to be.
I agree.
And if the two of you can figure that out, I think that's where it needs to go.
Okay, Randy, where would you like to see this?
I would like to get to the point where we can get the information we need. I'm still not convinced, I'm not a good feeling of how much Chris is gonna have to spend additional to get to the plot.
She didn't have to spend anything.
You probably don't want to talk, so I'll just.
We're not going
I
there
know,
yet.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
So, I mean, I think that's part of the equation. I mean, if it's, I think that's part of the equation, but we definitely need to, I think we need to take it back to the city council, quite frankly, and get all the people together at the same time with the planning committee and make a decision as quickly as we can.
Okay, if the choice is between sending it back to just planning committee or sending it to the council as a whole.
Okay, I am not a professional at building or planning. You are not, Larry is not, and Randy is not. I see no reason whatsoever why we should be involved in clearing up any issues that are required, because we have no clue, and we would just be sitting there while the two of you talked anyway. I think the two of you should sit down at your earliest
I'm talking
opportunity.
about beyond that stage, next stage. When
Okay,
it
as
has to
soon
come
as
back
they
to the
get,
council, one way or another.
once they have an agreement,
Right.
then Margaret could come back to us and we could discuss having a special meeting to do whatever the recommendation is.
Larry, your turn.
Okay, I heard lots of things that's changed tonight. One, something about a geotech report, and that if the geotech report comes back and it's not favorable, the project is in the tank.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a decision point. And so I'm thinking that, as long with what Margaret has pointed out, all those factors are going to have to be addressed. And by no means am I an expert on, I have done some building, but I'm not an expert, and I know there's a lot of requirements in here. So, and some of the things that we're talking about tonight weren't presented to us. The plan that came before us wasn't what I guess will be the next one. So I think that's where we are. We need that to be revised. We need all the things that need to be, from Margaret's standpoint and our planners, addressed. And then I guess that will then be our decision point whether for us to move forward as a council, because ultimately this is where it's got to come to issue the variance. We can recommend in the planning commission, looking at it, and we can say, yeah, it meets everything's, the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and council go ahead and stamp it. But I think they probably want to have input too. So I guess this is the final decision, so it probably ends up coming back here.
As the city manager reminded us, this is a zoning issue, this is a zoning matter, the variance is a kind of zoning, so you will need a 10-day published notice. But to save Mr. Hanson time, as Randy, I think, pointed out, it could come directly back to the council.
Right.
And skip the planning committee.
Right.
I will say this, and I say it in the nicest possible way, for me, it's more important that you get it right. There has been confusion on both of these parcels.
Right.
And in fairness, both first to the city and then to him, let's not proceed till you get it right.
Okay, my turn? My turn. First of all, I do want to say, personally speaking, as far as this variance goes, there's been lots of comments pro and con. I agree that our job is to decide whether there's a necessity for this variance. Absolutely, when it comes to driveway, there's no doubt. We start treading on different ground when we start mixing that up between need and want. It is a small parcel, it is a small plot for a house. I have a small plot next to me. If I want a bigger plot, what do I have to do? So it's the variance, there has to be a specific need for it. The driveway wasn't even brought up to the first, when it was first brought up to the planning committee. So I think what we need now is a list from the council. Let me see if I can circle back and get what we're looking for here. A list from the council of what information we need for certain. We need the two of you to sit down and hammer out. I know it may feel unfair that we're hearkening back to that first project, but as was pointed out, one cannot begin until the other is cleared up completely. That's just the way it has to be. So if you guys can sit down with Margaret and figure out what needs to be done, what was missing from the other. You've got information that we don't have. No, nobody called, nobody asked, because we couldn't take it to that stage yet. So here we are now at that stage. That would be one of the first requirements, but I also think that there are other things here that we've discussed tonight that we would also need. The geotechnical report was mentioned. It would be, and it was mentioned also by Mark before, that if that doesn't pass, then all of this is for nothing and a variance isn't necessary. So I know that's an expense. Is that something that you would be willing to?
No,
okay.
I'm assuming it can pass. Obviously, that project won't happen if it doesn't. I just need to know if it does pass,
right.
Will that project pass? I don't want to spend another $15,000 just to get to that point. If it all does work out, I don't want to get there and have someone go, no, we're not going to pass it.
Right.
Then I'm going to really be bummed.
Right.
You know, I'm okay to spend the money. I just want to know that if all those boxes work out and everything is okay, at that point, will it pass? If that's the case, then I'll spend the money.
Well, we do need more information. I think that, Margaret, do you have a handle on what we've been talking about, the things that we are looking for?
Yes, actually, it's in the ordinance.
It's all of the notes that you had taken.
All of that is
okay.
in the ordinance for a conceptual plan.
Okay, so are we more comfortable with that as a council? Bring that back, let them talk about it.
Yes.
You'll bring a report back to us, and at that point, then we decide when it comes before the council.
Well, but we can notice it.
Right, then we'll notice it, and it'll come in front of all of us for further discussion. Does that sound good? Do we need a motion, or what do we need to close out this public hearing?
Why don't we for now?
Okay.
In an effort to possibly avoid noticing it, go ahead and continue it to the April meeting.
Okay.
If things get done sooner, we can renotice it. If the April meeting turns out to work, then you won't have to renotice because you continued the hearing, continue it open.
Okay.
I do think also in this process that the planner, Mark, should be included. He's done quite a bit of work on this.
Okay, are you good with that, Mark, working with the other two?
Yes.
He's not gonna say no in front of you.
No, he's not. Okay, so that leaves us, are we closing out we're not closing, we're continuing the public
With the
hearing.
hearing open.
Okay, we're leaving the hearing open, it's 8:30. Leaving it open, we can open the door and let Jordan back in. And we can, in just a moment, I'll speak slowly. I have no doubt.
Jordan went home.
So we can still have a discussion by the city council if we have further discussion on this matter? Or have we done it all?
You are continuing and
Continuing
leaving the
action,
hearing
okay.
open, and once Jordan returns, you can move on.
Okay, so we'll talk slowly until Jordan comes back in. You're gonna get
Yes. Yes.
Come through with the hearing.
Hi, Jordan, we thought the man went home.
Yeah, I had a nice nap. You didn't fall asleep? Yeah, a little bit.
No, we have a little bit left.
Well, just a little bit left, Jordan.
I don't
No, you can stay.
A little bit left of the meeting, not the. You're okay. I have.
I got a 2-hour report.
Okay.
We just had comments.
Why don't you guys start your council comments and I'll come in last?
Would you please, thank you. Okay, well, we're back. Everybody's back. We're going to move city manager comments until after council comments. So, Councilmember Bonner, you're up.
Okay, we had two RCTC, that's Riverside County Transportation Commission. And the good news is finally, believe it or not, after 17 years, the Railroad Canyon Exchange is going to be designed by 2019 and finished by 2022. Now, there's a group that are working on this project, and I'm going to make some comment at the very end. I thought you'd find interesting at the public safety meeting yesterday, the Animal Friends of the Valley brought an article about rattlesnakes. They're coming back. So anybody's looking at that? And also some other coyotes, raccoons, and mallards. So you might be interested in looking and seeing that. It's very informational to look at it. So very much.
You know you are encroaching on Jordan's territory.
And
Mosquito abatement.
Oh, that's right, mosquitoes, I forgot.
Vicky, with your permission, at the very end, just before we adjourn, I would like to make a short comment.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's your turn. You stepped all over your land, I know that.
Hey, listen, I may take copious notes. Well, this is a combination of my SCAG and WRCOG and a little bit of Vector. It all kind of ties together. someplace. First, this has probably had more interest to the people in Santa Monica, Malibu, Ventura, Oxnard, what have you, but we had quite a lengthy report about the rise of sea level. Now this is going to get more interesting in just a moment, but we had a presentation by the Deputy Director of the California Natural Resources Agency. She talked about the current sea level rise, science, and how sea level rise will impact water supply, floodplain management, transportation, and infrastructure. Now, eventually, these people that live along the coast are going to come into Riverside County. I'm not sure what year that is, but so there's going to be more people here, more homeless people, more everything, I guess. But soon cities and counties are going to have to comply with the new requirements to incorporate climate change in their planning efforts, and that means all cities. Such as, will seawalls be permitted? And if so, will FEMA approve the type of the seawall? And perhaps we'll have to build natural habitat on berms with plants, bushes, seagrass, and what have you, to hold back the rising tide. Hey, Barry, it's going to get better.
All right, Jordan.
Barry, get the one on the coyote.
Got people waiting for me.
He's not waiting, he's just getting some material.
Okay, good. To continue, will power plants or desalination plants be able to build on the coast and be ready for the rising tides? What will insurance companies require to build along the coast? All of this is to prepare and educate for the future. California has the nation's largest ocean economy, valued at over $44 billion per year. The great majority of it is connected to coastal recreation and tourism, as well as miles of public beaches that support the ocean economy, that all lie within a few feet of the present high tide. Now, I condensed this so I can make it really interesting for everybody, so I have about 8 more pages, but I'm not going to read those yet.
More comments, and he's going back to his.
Now I'm going back to some of these notes that I took at WRCON. This is a real interesting one concerning Uber, or Uber. Uber delivered 2,000 cases of Budweiser beer on a 120-mile ride in Colorado. It was driven by a robot, big rig. There's also a licensed truck driver at the wheel in case of emergency, but Uber says the goal is to eliminate humans inside the cab. And this gets a little scary. Robots are taking over so many different areas. Manufacturing workers are being hit the hardest. 63% of jobs will be automated in Riverside County by robots. So we're going to have to retrain the older generation, which is going to be very difficult, hopefully, to find employment for them. Homeless is going to increase, and the hardest hit's going to be the construction industry. Now I can tie this into Vector. Well, this has to do with climate change. Are there zombie viruses in the thawing permafrost? Well, that's a good question. One of the 25-year-old teacher, archaeologist, who was excavating an 800-year-old log cabin high above the Arctic Circle on the northern coast of Alaska, noticed a red spot on her front leg. It was about the size of a dime, and it felt hot to touch. The spot grew quickly, and in a few days it was the size of a softball. She realized that she might have picked up a creature preserved in the permafrost. Climate change zombies, pathogens. Some of these words I have no idea what they are. They're preserved. Well, listen, you're staying.
Free entertainment.
Well, these guys, or whatever they are, have been preserved for centuries in frozen ground, coming back to life as the Arctic's permafrost starts to thaw. Let's see. You don't want to hear all this. No. Well, that's agreed. Okay, I have one more item that has nothing to do with climate change, I don't think. Dog flu is on the rise. Now, this is very interesting. Canine influenza, yes, it's doggy flu is upon us. Canine flu has not been reported in many states yet, although hotspots include northern Kentucky, southern Ohio, central California, and a few other places. As I always announce, you know, I have too much information usually to keep you awake, but it's always available and I'm happy to provide it to you or answer any questions or let you have some of this information. But I do spend a lot of time hanging out at these meetings getting this info, so it's my obligation to report it. And I think I will conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Haggerty?
I'm just going to cut mine to one piece of information. I'm one of the directors for Riverside Transit Agency, and I've been working on a project for some time, and it is now coming to fruition. I have set up a travel meeting, education meeting / it's going to be on Friday, April 6th at the Senior Center. I had talked with the people at RTA about my concerns about the number of people who are either, I don't want to say disabled, challenged, I guess would be the word, or people that have had their driver's licenses taken and they can no longer drive and they have no way to get around. There are a number of programs out there for these kinds of people. And I won't go through all of them now, but if you want to hear about them, come to that meeting. The RTA is putting a flyer in the Friday flyer 2 weeks beforehand with the date and all the information. And they will take a group. They're going to have informational meeting for probably an hour and a half. And then they're going to take a group, you have to make a reservation, on a travel trip to the outlets. They will provide a free bus. They will provide 2 travel companions, one of who is a senior, so you can relate if you're a senior. And they will familiarize you with how to catch the buses, how to look at the schedules, how to pull a stop sign or the stop if you want, what fares are, any questions you have. They will familiarize you with the buses. They're trying to encourage more people to ride the bus. The more people ride the bus, the less people are going to be driving on the freeways. And the ultimate goal is to build that bus number of riders so that we can eliminate some of the problems. When gas prices go up, bus passengers increase. When the prices go down, people go back in their cars. Typical California. On the East Coast, nobody drives. But they're trying to get somewhat to that stage here. And they're starting with the seniors, getting them encouraged to take the bus. They don't have the gas, the parking, none of the problems. And the buses have Wi-Fi, they're air conditioned, they will carry wheelchairs, surfboards, whatever you have, they have the capacity to hold it. There's also a program for people that have to have someone take them places where they can fill out a form and that, so that they're not uncomfortable asking that person to pick them up and take them to the store all the time. They can be reimbursed by the county for the gasoline used in those trips, which would at least make the person asking feel better. There's a number of programs out there for people that are physically challenged and the people that just simply can't drive anymore. So this program is a very good informational one that I suggest anybody that's watching tonight try to attend. It's at the Senior Center. I believe it's at 9 or 9:30. It'll be on that flyer. And then after the informational meeting, anyone that wants to book a ride to the outlets, they will give you a couple of hours there. You can have lunch, do a little shopping, and then they'll bring you back on the bus just to get people comfortable with riding the bus. And so I'm very excited about that. I hope we have a really good turnout. Elsinore outlets. And if people are happy, they'll do one to Temecula, they'll do one. There's a number of places that they suggested, Tyler Mall, whatever. They are willing to continue this as long as people are interested.
Very nice, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
My turn. I only have a little list here. I'd like, would you please pass those down for each of the members on that end? RCA didn't meet this month, but we have the annual report for 2015. They're just a little bit behind, but it basically talks about all the property that's being purchased and why they're purchasing it in the corridors. And believe it or not, Canyon Lake has a slice of this because we have a piece of our beautiful city that will be part of RCA one day. It is now, but it is not completely designated. I met with city manager, I met with Congressman Calvert last couple of weeks ago, and we had lunch with his staff of what, 10? Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of people. Anyway, he was making the circuit with all the cities here that he represents in Congress and was asking input. So he heard from us basically about the BLM land, which he said he would help, which he could work with the president of the RCA or the chairman of RCA, which is Jonathan Ingram. He knows him. They said they would try to, what they've been saying for years. But probably one of the most important things that came out of it, I met his chief staff person. We talked about a SAFER grant, which is offsetting our cost for the third person for Engine 60. SAFER grant will be, applications come open, what, 26th of March, Mike? 27th of March, SAFER grant? 26th. So as soon as we get that grant written, we will forward it to the chief staffer who will work at it from that end. So that gives us a really two-pronged approach, our side and then coming down from the congressman's side. So that was all positive. What I handed out to you is our new org chart for the city and emergency management for you to look at. We can ask questions later. I'm sure that we could go over, take an hour on this alone. On the back side, it also talks about the areas, as you guys probably know, look in the phone book, we're divided up into 5 areas, and it covers that. That's what our emergency preparedness group does, and does the damage assessment. We did a run, hide, fight video for all of our emergency preparedness people, and Mary was there. It's a 6-minute video, and we're going to run it on the, well, I guess it's called Facebook, not Facebook, but anyway, your informational page, we're running it on ours because we have one. And it's very good, very informational. Unfortunately, we've had another event here in Florida, and if you get caught, the things have changed and how you might survive. Everyone, no one said a word. They were all, ears were up, and I thought it was done quite well. We met, Mayor and myself met with other mayors from Temecula, Murrieta, and I'm not sure who else was there. Anyway, there's 11, Menifee, there's 11 cities that are going to have this monthly meeting to talk about regional issues and how we maybe be able to help each other, or what they're doing and what we can do. So first meeting was a kickoff. It was done in Murrieta. The next one will be done in Menifee. So that was positive. to give a shout out to Jack. Remember we had a cardiac arrest over last summer. A lot of things came about. Now, an emergency cart is being developed. It's in process right now. Should be out in another 3 weeks, and we'll have that loop closed. And then we're doing NIMS and SIMS training and WebDLC training for all of our staff. That's it.
Okay, I have water meetings over the next 2 weeks, so we didn't have anything happening there. We did have our alum treatment, went very well, went absolutely perfectly, actually. We have, as Nancy said, we have a slight increase, but not enough to really even notice. We're expecting more rain this week. Keep your fingers crossed for that. I did have my Animal Friends meeting. The good news is our fees went down slightly because it is based on the number of resources we use. So however many animals are turned in from Canyon Lake, turned over from Canyon Lake, barking dogs, that kind of thing, then the fee goes up. The bad news is that our fees are going to have to rise anyway, because at the very minimum, the state mandate of raising the minimum wage has raised their budget by no less than, this year alone, $130,000. So that has to, it's crazy. So you know who to thank for that. So that is the bad news. We don't have a figure yet. We're still working on a budget. We may, I'll put it out there now, the discussion is that we may possibly have to close the facility one day because of this. There's another way would be to increase our fees within the city, the fees that we charge to people when they have to go retrieve their animal out of jail, that kind of thing. There hasn't been a fee increase for a long time, so those things are being looked at as a way to maybe counterbalance this 130 plus, because that's just this year. It goes up from there, and it's just a really crazy routine. So that's kind of the bad news coming our way, something to think about. I'll bring more information to you when we decide what direction we may go, so that the council can let me know how they think that we want to do for the city. And that is all I have. Oh, Randy, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, I want to give a compliment to our mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. And I don't want to discount the good work that Dawn and Jordan and myself to a certain extent. But there's been five cities that have been talking about for some time: Marietta, Temecula, Menifee, Lake Elsner, and Willamar. And one was missing, called Canyon Lake. And between the work that Vicki and Larry has done, we are now part of that group. So thank you both for being able to accomplish in 4 weeks what I couldn't do for 6 years.
It helps to be a little pushy sometimes, huh?
Thank you, Randy. If there is no other business, oh, that's right, we missed you because you were out of the room.
I was out of the room.
Sorry.
So just quickly, this year, when we do our business license renewals, business licenses run calendar year, and then they have 30 days, so they have till the end of January to get those in. We've been looking at our process. Our process notification is actually quite lengthy. We send out the initial letter and renewal back in November, and then they get 4 letters, and by the time code enforcement would start citing it would be April. Staff has determined that is just way too long. We've reviewed our business license ordinance. There's nothing in there. This is all administrative, so we're going to shorten this up real quick. They're going to get the initial one in November, saying they have 30 till the end of January to do it. They will, if for those who don't comply, they will receive notification letters starting February 1st that they're out of compliance and with an administrative citation.
Okay, so my question on that, it's a really good idea, because that 4 months of, basically, then they have 90 days that they have been operating in our city without any kind of license. So my question is, when we send out the renewal notices in November, does every city send out renewal notices to their businesses? Or is that, is that just it is pretty general that they do that?
Yes.
Huh,
I've been with other cities that I've worked for cities where they, whenever they come in to get their initial license,
Yeah.
if they come in June, it'll expire the following May, and it's month by month, so they're sending out, so they would send out renewal notices monthly, because the
Oh, that's
next month is
crazy.
expiring.
Okay.
Right, we're a little bit more, on the ball here with regarding, we do, everybody, so if they come in October, get their license, it's good till the end of the year, so it's 3 months.
Right.
But then you renew and you're good for the whole following year.
And so this is for businesses that you know are operating. We have a situation that you and I
Correct,
talked about.
yes.
There's a business that everybody knows of that goes inside the gates of Canyon Lake one way or another, they get in there. That not only are they doing door-to-door soliciting, which is against the CC&Rs, but it's strong-armed. You know, it's not, it's just not the way things should be done, period. And they are not in compliance right now, and they do not have a business license.
That is correct.
And they waited until, I think you said June of last year before they,
I think it was June, yes.
and they are in particular. Now, how do we know, we have rumors that they're operating inside the gates, but we don't have anybody standing there watching them come in and out. Do we send?
That's correct. I mean, code meets monthly with POA's code. The idea is to get them, so if they know that they're coming in, to notify us and let us know. That's what we're gonna be asking of them.
Okay.
Also, code and special enforcement are very aware of these, and so when they're out and about, they are paying attention, so if they come across them, they will cite them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something we want to bring forward to.
Marietta's using something like this, other cities use it. Other cities use, this is just a concept, this is not what but if you visually look at this, you can tell that they're licensed, they get it, and most of the cities that are, not so much in Riverside County, but in larger cities and like in the really metropolitan counties, they require this kind of a sticker, which would help our code enforcement, but it will also help when they come in the gate, because I believe the POA is interested in having licensed folks in there. I don't know.
Show the people at home that.
The POA has, you cannot conduct business inside the gates. They look the other way for people who work out of their homes selling Tupperware and various things, but an actual business conducted inside the gates is against the rules. So I don't know why they would be interested in having a sign on their car that they're a licensed business person to conduct business in POA, because they can't, or shouldn't.
Yeah,
For contractors.
coming in, so
Okay.
you're looking at the landscape
I'm with
people,
you. When you said
maybe,
business. Yeah.
on the domestic side with the cleaning homes and things like that.
Yeah.
So that way, when they come in, if they're on the list, the con list, then they can see that sticker, and then when staff's driving around, they're not, a lot of times, they're not driving marked cars, they're driving personal vehicles.
Right.
By having that sticker, they know, okay, they're good for the year.
Okay, I think that's an excellent
That's what we're
idea.
looking at. Right.
Yeah, we do, and in this particular case, it's a particularly offensive company that seems to be causing some issues.
Correct.
And there was a safety issue.
There was,
This
and
is why
so.
we're paying attention to that.
Right, and so code's very aware of it, and they're on the lookout for them.
Okay.
And then real quickly, our Jeep came in. It's all decaled, looks great. That we're 40% of it's being paid by the AVA program. And so if you want to ride, let us know. We'll have special enforcement come out and take out the BLM land and take out the Jeep. That'll be great. The Highlander that we ordered, that's being purchased all with AQMD funds. That should be here by the end of April. It's yes, it is hybrid.
We have a meeting this month at the country club.
Yes, no. So and then we have the Riverside Division of the League of Cities meeting is next Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
It will be at the Country Club. Check-ins at 5:30. The meeting starts at 6. And this is a bi-monthly meeting. So and this is the west side of the county's time to hold it, and so we signed up and we got it. So the next meeting will be out in the desert. So that's how they alternate back and forth between the desert and the west side. And so this time it will be Canyon Lake that has the opportunity to host this.
It's been a long
It's been a
time
while.
since we've done that, so.
And it's at the country.
It's at the
It's at the
country
country
club,
club,
so
so-
we're giving business where it belongs.
So we won't have any issues with people trying to get in through the gates.
Right.
It'll be easier for them to come to the country club.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to, we've already checked occupancy and everything, and we should be, everything's good to go.
We are good, yeah. I do want to talk to you before you go too.
And that's all I have.
All right, anything else? All right, just about straight at 9 o'clock, we'll close the meeting.
Yeah, I got it now. Eric probably will.